Right, without further ado, here is Mr. Joseph Lee from Impact Counseling and Consulting Services, and he's donning his black shirt today too. Boy, yeah, it's Black History Month and Black Shirt Day.
Hey, sometimes, you just naturally coordinate when you have the right mindset. You know what I mean? That's just that's just how that works, man. We got some
Yeah,
cool shirts.
and that's funny because on Sundays, I already know what color suit I'm going to wear, and
Right.
and my wife claims that she picked the same color out by curiosity. I said, no, you didn't. You seen the suit I pulled out I was gonna wear. You
You
trying to
know,
match. We're not in high school anymore, matching.
yeah, you are. You are forever in high school with your wife, man.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard me. We talking earlier that a lot of people forget about that fire and their relationship, how they first got together, and then they don't grow apart. They just stop doing the things they used to do that attracted each other. And I was telling my wife this morning, we hadn't had a weekend getaway in a while. So we try to get away every other month and have a date night
Mhm.
once a week. And I'm saying a lot of people forget about that, about doing that. Try that. You'd
Yeah,
be surprised. You actually talk to each other again and not be texting back and forth while they're at work. You actually have a meaningful conversation.
that's it. FaceTime back in the day was actually FaceTime. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's interesting. I know I was listening to the show the other day, and you're talking about relationships. We're going to kind of get into that, later on here, maybe do a little series and follow it up on the YouTube channel that's coming soon,
Yeah.
on just how to kind of keep that spark alive. I've been married for about 20 years. We're the baby marriage of the group that, everybody's 30, 40 years, in our circle. And, I want to, we're going to talk about and point out some of the things, the movie that was made, and just talk about how to make it, and then not just how to make it, how to select, a spouse or be in a healthy relationship. So we're going to get into that at some point. So that's what ladies and guys can look into or look forward to down the line. Because and you hit one of the secrets, you have to continually date your wife. You
Yeah.
have to continually date your wife. It's not about just getting a wife, it's about keeping a wife, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that the same thing that you did to get her, you got to do to keep her, right? So and there's challenges sometimes with that. Let's gonna be real. Sometimes it's a little difficult to be in the same house at a moment. You get on each other's nerves,
Like
but that's okay.
the pandemic made a
Yeah.
true believer. If this is your right person you be with, if you survive through that, then you're good.
That helped to either strengthen or break a lot of relationships. Some people needed their job to save their marriage because it gave it
Yeah.
a break. A job to be outside of the house. Obviously, you're gonna have to have a job to save a marriage for some folks because you got to bring that bread home. But I'm talking about, so you need that break away. So that's why sometimes it's okay not to be on your phone all the time, because back in the day you had the opportunity to miss your spouse. You know what I'm saying? These cell phones, you got Apple Watches, you're never disconnected, right? So you don't really get a chance to miss your spouse a lot of time because you're constantly texting each other or talking to each
Mhm.
other, FaceTiming each other on the phone all day long.
That's true. When you talk about marriages, February 10th,
Mhm.
my mom passed away last year, but
Man,
February 10th,
my condolences.
thank you. They've been married 71 years.
71.
Yeah.
How often do you hear a marriage is lasting that long now, man? Or it's 71 years. I can't even think of the last time I've heard somebody that actually made it that long in marriage.
Yeah. And
71 years.
my dad is still living. He turned 90 years old in July, and he's still driving
Wow.
at 90.
Well, we might have to check that out, man. He might be good, but
Yeah. So,
check that eyesight out, man. What are we
yeah,
talking about?
yeah, but it's a blessing. Like you say, relationships that people treat them like a microwave. Oh, if it don't work today, I'm done tomorrow. I'm gonna find somebody else. You
Yeah.
can't skip from one person to another because you didn't like what's going on. You could agree to disagree, because that's the whole idea coming together. You don't agree on everything. If God wanted us all to be the same, he made us all the same. But he made us all different, to think different. And some of the main things in relationship, like to this day, my wife laugh at when I say night clothes. That's why I say she knows pajamas. She just get tickled when I say night clothes because it's different regions where we were raised at.
Yeah.
I was raised in Illinois. You were up there too, in Detroit area, because when I first came down here, and somebody said soda water, I said, "What's a soda water? We call it pop up there."
Pop. Yeah, that's right. It's called pop. That's right.
But those are some things of bringing people together from different regions, and you come together and you learn off that. Then when you have kids, you teach them both sides. It just goes on and on. But there's some people say you do it my way or no way at all. Well, that's not gonna last.
No, it's a give and take, and that's what you learn throughout marriage. And you got to figure out who's got what strong point, and let them, flourish in what their gift and what their natural ability is in a marriage. It's definitely a team effort. But I did have some points, man. We have a lot to talk about today. We've already kicked it for about a half an hour just talking. But I definitely want to bring up a couple of things that I heard that I think relate to mental health and politics, and I think it's something pretty significant that we can talk about here that caught my attention. So, the Fifth District Court. I don't know if anybody heard about this already, but if they didn't, I want to bring it up. Repealed or actually barred a law. Basically saying that people with domestic violence restraining orders, from being barred from having guns is unconstitutional. So the significant thing about this, when I heard this on TPR, NPR, it just turned my stomach, right? Because we talk about I don't think of any valid reason, and we're going backwards. You've been talking about on this show, we need to have stricter laws on gun control and whatnot. Yeah. There's a law that they just determined was unconstitutional, is one designed specifically to save lives. And it's basically saying that if you have a restraining order, meaning that you've gone to court, if people have gone to court, got a restraining order, and deemed somebody dangerous from either to their spouse or from a child, the restraining order is given, that law is saying it's illegal, but this ruling is saying it's illegal to keep them from having possession of a firearm. So they've already been determined dangerous. They can't have a firearm. That somebody's already in danger. So I don't know what the thought process is. I know what the thought process is, but how irresponsible, right? This goes directly to the heart of the problem that we have. And then you got to look at the indicators, right? Experts in domestic violence, they state one of the highest and the quickest indicators, the highest indicators of somebody that's about to commit murder or is going to be more violent or whatever the case may be, but is going to commit murders is those folks that have already committed domestic violence against a spouse or children. You can just think about the news that we've had over the past few weeks or months to see that. Domestic violence situations evolving into murder, right? How many times have we had those headlines, right? So then pass something like this, basically say that it's unconstitutional based on some perverted reading of the Second Amendment that needs to be changed. This is where we're going. This is the direction we're going. Now, keep in mind, and the TPR pointed this out, most of those judges that are on that Fifth District Court are now appointed by Trump. And Trump handpicked these guys. He handpicked these guys. They were the most extreme. They were the ones that would be the ones who would believe, the most extreme rhetoric that Trump would say that was in the alternative facts world. Those were the guys that he stacked that court with. So no wonder we're starting to see kind of backwards lawmaking like this. And stay tuned, because this is the beginning of their show, right?
You know, you brought up a point. I I was just reading this the other day that the murder suicide rate for domestic violence in couples have went up 33% in the past 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's we're going backwards. And part of the reason we're going backwards, and the president said it last night yesterday in the State of the Union, is that we got to do something with these assault weapons. There's too many of them on the street. There's too many that people have access to. And then on top of that, when you have laws that are designed to protect people, we're weakening them instead of strengthening them. It's almost like, we're trying to go backwards. It's a dangerous precedent, man, when we have this level of irresponsibility and ignorance in the court, in the system, in the infrastructure of our political system. And you can just watch yesterday. If you watch body language, right, and you watch people's response, just look at the State of the Union yesterday, and it's really crazy how, with everything that Biden was saying yesterday, the response that people were giving him on the left of him, but were really on the far right, there were some things that I thought his speech was amazing. I thought that a lot of the points that he was saying benefited all Americans. But very few times did all of the Republicans stand up. If you watch, you could almost see the separation. Like, even with the previous administration, it's always that separation, right? Whenever he says a point or whatever, Republicans would just, when Trump was in office, they would just jump up just because he said something, valid or not. Occasionally you'd have the Democratic, side would jump up, but a lot more on things that could benefit, everybody. Last night, the Republicans acted like they didn't want to stand up for a whole lot. Now there were some obvious things that they had to stand up for when he got to the rah-rah, USA stuff, which was very much needed. But it was killing me that even on blatantly obvious things that should have been benefit everybody, he had to pull teeth, to get everybody to stand up.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting when he hit that Social Security part.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he put that stuff right on Front Street,
Mhm.
and none of the Republicans that pushed that legislation forward wanted to say anything then. They were on, everybody's watching. But some people put that legislation forward that they wanted to sunset Social Security and Medicare. Man, they went crazy. And actually they got highly disrespectful. Did you hear the level of disrespect?
Yes.
The
Calling him a
level
liar and all that.
all
Martin
that
Luther
stuff.
King.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just the little, that's what I was watching. I was like, show America who you really are. Show America who you really are. Yes, he brought up some contentious points. Well, he's supposed to. Don't forget, the majority of the legitimate ballots and the legitimate vote, he won. So he's speaking from the majority perspective of the country, whether they like it or not. That's what was going on last night.
Yeah.
And to just sit there and disrespect the office of the president, and you're a senator, congressman, it really shows the level of couth, intelligence, and class that you have. And especially based on the things he was talking about. But I like that he pushed through it and said, okay, so I guess, and he said it like 3 times, Social Security and Medicare they're off the chopping block, right?
Yeah.
And of course they were like, yes, and it was brilliant. I think that's a tactic that they need to do more often. Show these ridiculous policies in the light and make these mugs. I wish you would have called the names out of the people that pushed that legislation forward so you can see what you're voting for. These are the people that are telling you they got your back, but they're basically gutting the programs that you need to be successful in the country. When he started talking about, taxing the top money earners in terms of these businesses, that pharma, big pharma, all that. And they talked about taking some of that money out, capping, people that need insulin, capping the cost of $30 to $35 or whatever. None of those mugs stood up when they talked about that. Just look at the response to that. With everybody talking about what's best for Americans and all that, when you got real concrete meat things that can help Americans, and everybody doesn't stand up, that says something. That's who you're voting for, right? They're sitting down and you're ultra conservative, and they say if you're not making 400, there's a number he threw out. He's not going to tax people increase taxes on people making under $400,000 a year. So those folks are sitting down with these common sense programs and cuts to try to help the budget and all that, help the bottom line. There were some really good things that he talked about that are coming to fruition that he was responsible for. And the proof was there, the economy, all that stuff. Remember, I think 45 said the economy was going to collapse if he wasn't reelected.
Yes.
All these horrible things are going to happen. But what he said is expanding the middle class out and having a bridge up from poverty. The upper is going to do better. The middle class is going to do better. Our economy is going to do better. And the poor have an opportunity to have a ladder up. And that's what he was talking about. That's what's happening. And that's why our economy is still working. So we got the alternative fact side. That this should have been a good report. People should have been cheering, but you could see the attempt at the foolery, because on things that should have made everybody happy, they were still sitting there like, you in my pocket now. The people my real constituents, the wealthy, don't like you talking about forming unions. Don't talk about getting the middle class wage expanded. Factories are going to be dropping, creating jobs that are going to be $130,000, and up. The average income is $130,000. That's how you make a difference in the country. That's how you make a difference. Talking about the diminished to almost depleted middle class. Look at it. There was a time when at least our grandparents used to be able to pay for their children to go to college.
Right.
Who can do that now? Write the check for college for 4 years. Probably the ones making over $400,000 a year. Maybe, depending on, and maybe some of them are even struggling, because anyway, we ain't gonna talk about all the people
a little sidebar to that. There was something that went on that the cameras caught. We didn't catch the verbiage between. It was Nick Romney and that new freshman congressman Santos. He went up to Santos and said, "What are you doing sitting in the front row? You're a freshman congressman. You ought to be in the back." I mean, he stood up for. I mean, Nick Romney is a Republican, and he says it's on his mind. He said George Santos, whatever his name is, had no business sitting in the front row.
George Santos had no business sitting in there, period.
Yeah. So
I've talked about this earlier. Santos, if he'd have been anybody else, just think about this. You apply for a job, you fill out your resume, and everything on your resume is a lie.
Yeah.
You get the job. Not only are you fired, most people, you probably going to jail, depending on the job that you're doing. You might even be facing jail time. And it's just amazing to me. Kanye, or Ye, bless his heart, help his mind, Lord, lost $400 billion in a day for the anti-Semitic remarks he made. Santos pretended to be Jewish,
and to have that money like that. He went from 55,000 a year to
Yeah.
loan his own self
Yeah.
$700,000.
But I mean, you talk about the ultimate act of anti-Semitism. You're gonna just fake that you're a Jewish person to get a job, pretend to be somebody Jewish, and he still got his job. It just blows my mind the hypocrisy that people don't tend to see, and even have him sitting in there in the front row. You got to give it to him. That is a lot of nerve, boy, to be up here. He should have been hiding in the back behind the biggest person in there. Just peeking around the corner. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
but
So,
it tells us
so
up.
what brings to this point right here? It's a good segue. I don't have to bring it up. What brings up to mental health with him? What is going through that knucklehead's mind? And he's still lying about everything. Talking about Santos, he's still lying about everything to this day, and he don't know. I don't think he know what reality is. Be honest with you.
Well, I think here's the interesting thing, and I've said this before on the show. I don't blame a bird for flying. I don't blame him for doing what he's doing. I blame the people around him for allowing him to sit here while he's doing it. Nobody else would still have their job, had lying about everything about their education, their accomplishments, their nationality, everything about Santos is a perfect example of what's wrong with the Republican Party. It's all about the fact that he's even still there. It's all about power. It doesn't matter about your integrity. It doesn't matter about the truth. You can live in your own alternative facts world. As long as you are pushing this agenda of protecting the elite, making the underclass or people, folks that are not the elite, think that you're working for them, then that's all that matters. That's all that matters. It's just trying to hold on to the status quo of, to me, mostly bad policies and delusional thought processes, lies. That's what it's about. That's what that party is about right now. But look at who's got the most influence in the party.
Yep.
So of course you can suffer someone who lies about everything. It ain't the first time you've been exposed to that, right? I mean, come on, man. The man of the previous administration lied about how many people showed up at the inauguration, lied about the lethality of COVID, lied about what his true intentions are with Putin and his relationship, lied about what he had those top secret documents for, lied about, man, come on now. How many lies? How many lies? And then we're surprised that we got somebody like Santos. No, he fits right in. He fits right in with what they are about right now.
Which brings to a question that somebody asked last week. We didn't get to when you said that. This is Vicky from, of all places, California. Sandra, Vicky from California. She wanted to ask you. She always hear you talking about introverts and all that, and she's sort of puzzled. She want to know, what is an introvert?
No, okay. So there's introverts, which are more reserved, usually more shy, more quiet. They're to themselves. Then you have extroverts. Me, Ron, our crew, we're more extroverts. We get in there, you're gonna know we're there. We're gonna, have to be out there about socializing, putting our energy, out there, right? That's extroverts. So it's, you got introverts that are more internalized, and actually, from a mental health standpoint, introverts are the ones you have to be most concerned about with depression, things, that could be going on, because they're going to hold more things in. Extroverts, if they're going through something, they're more likely to say, "Whew, I'm going through something right now. I'm dealing with something right now. This is really irritating." Our circle here, I know we lean on each other a lot. We talk about things that make us mad. How many times have we called each other? You're not gonna believe this. Look at these fools. You don't hold. Well, we don't hold it in. We let it out, and that's healthier. How you let it out and to whom is important, though, right?
Yeah.
But those are extrovert and introvert. Extroverts, you got to be careful of in other ways too, because if we're mad, we're gonna let you know it, and we may go a little too far when we let you know. Sometimes. So if you got two
Yeah.
extroverts that are mad at each other, watch out. Watch out. You got somebody, but then even in relationships, if you got an introvert, it's just like, let's play a traditional role. It's not always this way, right? I'm not assigning this as the gender role for everybody. But if you have a woman who's more of an introvert and a guy who's an extrovert, a lot of times she'll just take the abuse. She'll just take verbal or whatever abuse.
Yeah.
Until she snaps. Right? A lot of songs about that. A lot of movies about the woman who snaps. Right?
What's that one song? It's a thin line between love and hate.
Love and hate. It's a thin line. Remember that movie? Everybody knew about this, and I would still refer older couples to this movie when I think domestic violence is going. Remember that movie, Burning Bed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to look at a Tina Turner movie too. Ike was something else.
Yeah, Ike was something else, but in that doggone limo, he got something else.
Yeah, he sure did.
That is a funny movie, man. But but it's funny, but it also shows domestic violence and how commonplace. And they actually talked about that. It's sad, man. Some of the laws and things that we have had in this country in regards to people of color and even relationships. It was actually legal. I think 1870. I think this was 1870 or 18. Somewhere in there, it was legal for husbands to beat their wives. Legal. It was like on the books. It's legal up to a certain point to like physically beat your wife.
Man.
And so you talk about some of the laws and the irresponsibility. Laws make a difference. We have to have our best, the most reasonable and intelligent people up here making our laws. If not, you get, I'm about to say the wrong thing, blank backwards legislation, like a law barring people with domestic violence restraining orders from having a gun as unconstitutional. That when I heard that, I was like, no, you got to be playing. They actually sat up there and decided that people with restraining orders can have semi-automatic weapons. People that have gone to court and been deemed dangerous, possibly threatened or harmed a spouse or children, to have some automatic weapons. I can't make it strong enough. We got to get these fools out of office. We got to get these judges replaced. I hope somewhere on the agenda, Biden is talking about getting as many federal judges to offset these fools. And yes, I'm gonna call them fools with an agenda, because here's the thing: you're obviously not stupid if you made it through law school to get to be a judge or whatever the case may be. So if you're not stupid, you have to have an agenda. What is the agenda when you're doing laws like that? With the situation that we're in right now, the house is burning down, so we're going to restrict more water. Who's in control of that? Who makes decisions like that, right? They've got to be controlled by special interests. It's about a power money grab, right? And then also, who's affected more by laws like this? Us, people of color. And now everybody, because last time I checked, gun violence is up everywhere. So we got to hold these folks accountable, man. And I got to move on to something else. Thank God. Well, rest in peace, Tyree Nichols, for sure.
Yes.
Because it looks like things are going to be moving and shaking in regards to looking at police reform and how we deal with interactions and possibly how police deal with interactions involving people of color I think Biden did a great job talking about there are some good police officers out there. Most police officers, I believe, put on that shield to do good things. At least that's what you know, the way I think it is, or the way I think it should be. But we got denied it. It's not just a race thing now. It's a system thing, right?
Yeah.
That it's a new precedent that, you know, now when police are caught doing horrific things like what they did to Tyree Nichols, George Floyd, that it's time for a wake up call, you know, and that wake up call is, you know, he talked about it, better training, people being held accountable, and he made that clear. If you got on a badge and you're doing the wrong thing, you're going to be held accountable, and that this is the new precedent, right? If you do something wrong, you get caught. We're not waiting 6 months, 3 months, a year, whatever, for you to be charged with murder when it's blatantly obvious that you murdered somebody. I think it's great that that is the case. I think it would be even greater when it stops happening. So we got to finish the job. I love what he said. We got to finish the job. There's no reason why the George Floyd Act, and this is why I say it's something wrong with our country when the mother of somebody just got brutally slain on video, could be in the building sitting right above you, and you don't have sense enough to stand up out of respect for her and her family and the man that lost his life through police aggression, to not stand. But they're just showing you, no matter what, we're going to hold on to this power. We're going to hold on to giving the appearance that we're not going to move this country forward in the direction it should go because some of the backwards thinking constituents that are in our culture.
Which brings to this point right here. I bring this up all the time. They need to stop career politicians. There ought to be a term limit, because I brought up something one time. If somebody in office for 40 years, they came in with that mindset 40 years ago and they still have it. So that's part of the problem we have. Get term limits put on Congress and senators like they have term limit on everything else.
Well, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting. Didn't Ted Cruz, who has, in my opinion, stayed way past his expiration date, said he brought it up and was a laughing stock, right? And then had the nerve to say, well, yeah, I would, if he passes, I will immediately adhere to it. Whatever, man. Isn't this the guy that during the freeze in Texas jumped on a plane to go to Mexico to help his children? Yeah, you know, while his area, his constituency is freezing to death, and he's supposed to be here helping. He jumping on the plane to go help. What did he say? Help his daughters do something.
Yeah, come on now. He got on the next flight, came back, didn't he? Hey,
I can't take him serious. I cannot take a lot of these fools seriously anymore. I just can't. And I understand how people can't see. They don't care about you. They demonstrate it. They demonstrate they don't care about you, and people still vote because they think they're going to push forward their agenda. That's the whole reason people like Abbott and DeSantis, they have any legitimacy or any powers, because it's not because they put common sense or logical policies in place or do things that make sense. They think that they're going to push their agenda forward, whatever their agenda is. Listen, folks, I'm telling you, they don't care about you. They care about staying in power. They care about whatever lobbyist is going to get them the most money to stay in power. That's what they care about.
I call the governors of all these states, I call them baby kings, because they want to be a king and do as I say and say as I do. And for when they asked about gun control to Abbott, he said, we just can't do that. But yet he turned around and wrote down abortions are illegal, but he can't go ahead and say you got to be 21 years old. All they're asking is to raise the age to 21. And he said, we can't do that. It's unconstitutional.
Well, I think that we have have to make sure that the other point that was brought up, I think Jill Biden, the first lady, said this point, and I can't stress it enough. A country's, and I'm gonna say it my way, but basically the way what they said is a country's educational status and standard is going to dictate a country's place in the world. We have moved down significantly in our educational standards. The amount of how could I put it? What we pay our teachers, is a disgrace.
It is.
It's a disgrace. For us to try to be the number one superpower in the world and continue to be that, and we have such a broken educational system, it's not going to work out. We've got to educate our kids so we can educate these citizens so they can truly understand what the Constitution was supposed to do, how it was supposed to work, how it's supposed to work now. But you have to have people that know how to critically think. Ask a lot of these kids nowadays anything, and you'd be surprised at their thought process, because they don't really think. A lot of them, they don't have to, because everything is what? Right here, right here on the cell phone.
Yeah.
So they don't have to necessarily think, and they've had more access to information than any other generation, more access to information, but not wisdom, not facts. Just because you have information doesn't mean you have facts. So what you have is people with a whole bunch of access to information, kids with a whole bunch of access to information, and not a lot of people making sure they can decipher that information and help them to understand what fact is so they can develop critical thinking skills, social skills.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. That's how we keep getting these backwards, politicians and policies, because we have an uneducated population that is easy to be misled, because they basically just get their talking points off of shows and news that they haven't done the research themselves to find out what's going on.
Yeah.
I've fallen victim. I'll look at something on any of these news channels and I'll say, oh Lord, here we go again. This has happened again. Get the backstory. Get the whole story. See, we talked about this before. Back in the day when most of the news was in print, people were getting most of their news from, you get some news on TV, but most of the news people are reading the newspaper and getting the fact. They had to put more facts out there. And if you made a mistake, you had to recant it. You had to take it back.
And I remember those days, they wouldn't run a story not unless they had 3 or 4 people who corroborated on that to make sure it was the facts. Speak about that. I got a question for you.
What's that?
One of the listeners.
Okay.
It said, what's a passive aggression person and why they don't act that way?
Why they don't act that way? Well, let me say, a passive aggressive person is somebody who's manipulative, right? They're trying to get their way most of the time, or have people do things that they want them to do, but they're kind of subtle about it, right? They don't want to. Try to think of a passive aggressive statement would be kind of like, hey, do what you want to do, but this is what I think you should do. And they keep saying it over and over again, like, hey, did you do what I told you to do? No, you can do what you want to do, but I really need you to, I think you should do this, right? Yeah. The next day, hey man, how did that go? Did you do what I told you to do? That's passive aggressive. And there's straight up aggressive, which would be like, you gonna do what I told you to do, or you better do this, or that's aggressive. So the passive aggressive is that, and actually it's one of the more I think kind of annoying personality traits, right? Because the person really wants you to do something, but they try to pretend like that, you know, that they're not being aggressive, you know, but everything about what they're doing or how they're going about it is aggressive, you know, and, you know, Karens, right? But, and, well, Karens are actually aggressive now, but, you know, that just that assuming they're right, trying to get people to do what, you know, that they want you to do, regardless of how you feel, but then trying to play it off as, you know, really, I'm not this way, you know, so that's how that's why I see passive aggressive folks, right?
You know, you said when I was working with, I'm gonna say with DirecTV, there was this one guy, he was always aggressive with people. So we got the GPSs put on our vehicles so we can monitor the speed and braking and all that stuff. So this one guy went to the other one and said, hey man, you want to stop them from doing that? Get a great big aluminum foil and cover that GPS with it, and they won't notice that you're doing anything. Well, one of the supervisors couldn't find this guy on GPS and figure out what was going on. So he drove out where he was at, and the technician seen the guy going to his van. He ran out right away, and the supervisor seen this ball of aluminum foil wrapped around the GPS. And he looked at it, well, sir, I was just testing something out, and I didn't mean anything. Well, the next day, the same guy that told him to do it, he looked at him and said, so how did that go yesterday? Just like that. I said, you fell for that, you know. So, you know, I don't get it. Why people do that?
Well, passive aggressive is it's a manipulation technique, you know, and that's really what it, you know, what it is. People that, you know, want to have their way, but want to seem like, you know, they you know, they don't really care, but they do care. They care a lot, and it's a technique to try to do the Jedi. I call it the Jedi mind trick. They're trying to Jedi mind trick people, you know, into, you know, doing what they want them to do, right? But I did want to bring up another name. One of my friends in Michigan, you know, said we need to make sure we talk about some things from the hometown. My folks said, so shout out to everybody in Michigan. I'm going to talk about Patrick Lyoya, Lyoya, who was actually shot in the back of the head from a police officer, Christopher Scher, for a routine traffic stop. He ended up getting shot in the back of the head. We got to talk about things that are happening, not just in the area that you live in. Keep these names out here, because police reform has to happen. You know, it has to happen. There's way too many names. There's almost too many names to keep up with. There's things happening so much. You almost like have to have a ticker to know like what's going on. And we're going to have to change the paradigm, you know, and go back to a lot of things. The president hit on a lot of things that are important to a lot of people yesterday. And I really just felt like I'm tired of seeing the bipartisan rhetoric. And what he said, we need to start working together. And he put a lot of, as they used to say, well, as they said, he put a lot of stank on it. We need to work together because, and he also said, you know, if you look at the subtle things he was saying, and we're so subtle. I mean, I've never seen Biden with his fire that he had in the belly that he had in his last speech. But it was almost like he was trying to remind folks that the way to defend democracy is to remember that we are all Americans and to work together, because if we don't work together, we're working against democracy, and there are viable threats to democracy. But I think he also pointed out something very powerful too. Democracy is a powerful thing, and it's so powerful that a little area like Ukraine could stave off a whole country like Russia. And we're the only country that was formed on an idea. And that idea, though it's not completely realized, especially for us of color, we're fighting for. We're fighting for our reparations. We're fighting for our equal place in this country still. It's still the best idea the world has to offer in terms of what it represents. We just have to continue to do the work to make it real. And that's why I get so disgusted at the alternative facts reality. Because as long as you live in alternative facts, it's harder to make the country equitable and real in reality for everybody. And people want you to live in alternative facts that don't want you to benefit the majority of folks. And they want to twist it, turn it, make it anything that it could be, then equitable for everybody. And I'm not talking about giving everybody. No, I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about giving everybody the opportunity and giving what is due everybody.
Right.
So there's some powerful legislation and things that are passing. There's some reparations legislation that is going forward. There are some attempts to make everybody pay their fair share. There's no reason why multi-billion-dollar corporations keep getting tax breaks and we keep getting more taxes. Middle class. And those that can afford to pay more have to pay more. It's not about, I was so glad when he said that. So glad he could say, talk about people unionizing. I know firsthand powers of just a threat of a union and what it can do in terms of equity in major corporations. I know that. I've got some experience working with that. And you have to be able to stand up for yourself. When you feel like you're being wronged, you got to be able to stand up for yourself in this country. That is one of the most American things that we have, is the ability to stand up and use our voice to change our situation if we feel like we're being exploited. It isn't life in the pursuit of happiness. Isn't that, life, liberty, in the pursuit of happiness?
Happiness, yes.
Hey, I know money ain't everything, but it sure can help assist in happiness, right? Equitable work environments. And he talked about that. I mean, I feel like I'm hitting all the points that the president said, and it's not even intentional. But he did say something about what a job represents. It represents more than a paycheck, like his dad said, like we all know. A job represents dignity, respect in the community, and opportunities for your family to uplift. So whatever is putting more jobs out there that are good jobs, good paying jobs, that needs to happen. And if you don't have a clear plan and evidence that it's happening, then it ain't happening, and they're trying to hustle you. You couldn't argue the fact that the economy is getting better, because the economy was supposed to collapse when Biden took office. That's what 45 and the Republicans, that's the rhetoric, the lies that they were putting out there, is that they had the plan. And when he started laying those facts out there that no other administration had added more to the national debt in 200 years than the previous administration, that was a lie, huh? Check the facts. I like it. Biden, I think he should have had a little more authority on that.
Yeah, he did tell them to check. They was born, check the facts.
Yeah, check the facts. You know what I'm saying? We would have stayed on that point for a minute. You gotta stay on the points that they're trying to deceive people on. Give them the numbers. He said it. Check the proposals. Check the things, that I'm saying. Fact check me. I like it when somebody says that. Fact check me.
Yeah.
Because that means not only am I coming to you with the facts, I want you to find out how much of a lie and a delusional mindset you have. And you up here representing the will of the people.
You know what they always say? If they find out the truth hurts, they know the truth.
Listen,
they know exactly what it is.
Let me tell you this, man. It was, if you watch behavior, and as a therapist, that's one of the things we do. It gave me a lot of hope, and also concerned me a lot that this is still going on. But it gave me a lot of hope because I saw the end of this foolishness. I saw the end of it. It was more, if you watch the representation and the people standing up, it was only a small majority of those fools that weren't standing up when they knew they should have been. They know their time is running short. All authoritarian style governments, and I'm going to talk to you from a political science standpoint, all of them have an expiration date. All of them have an expiration date. And if you're not paying attention to history, you'll miss it. if a little country like Ukraine can stand up to a ultra superpower like Russia over an ideal and completely embarrassed. You're watching people don't know this, they're watching a modern day miracle, military miracle, that this little country like Ukraine can stave off a superpower. And democracy is the thing they're holding on to. They had too much of a taste of it.
Yeah.
Too much of a taste of freedom. Those people that are trying to hold on to an aristocratic, authoritarian style, a government or philosophy, they have an expiration date. Because once the will of the people, they get a taste of that freedom, the will of the people, it can't be quenched.
Yep.
And educated people understand the importance of fighting for democracy and pushing these folks that push lies and rhetoric. Look at how Putin operated. Everything he said was a lie. Oh, we're going to just move these tanks up to the border, and we're not going to invade. Next day, they invade.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not. Oh, we're not. We're not. We're trying to go after Nazis. Say what? We're going after Nazis. Okay. We're not. We're not murdering kids and children and just hitting random targets. Everything he said, he was lying about. Now the people. Now look over at the people that are lying here in the United States, and who is their guy? 45. That's why, and he made it clear he liked Putin. He thought that was a brilliant move. Remember that? He thought that was a brilliant move, invading Ukraine. I think he said that was one of the smartest moves. I don't remember him revisit that now. Does he still think it's smart?
No, he's not saying anything.
Yeah, it's funny how people follow foolishness.
Yeah,
it's funny how people follow foolishness, and still think they're right.
Mm-hmm.
Me or you had all the predictions and all. Well, first of all, we were doing all the things that illegal that have been done. We wouldn't be free. We would have been up under somebody's federal penitentiary, awaiting charges.
Yeah, awaiting. I like that. Awaiting.
Awaiting charges. They don't have to find. They don't have to find everything. They know we did so. They'll just hold us for investigation purposes.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. In the South, charges, they'll go back to a law back in 1800 and we use it against you, even though it's an outdated law. This was brought up. I talked to a few people saying some of these laws need to be changed or abolished because they will hold a black person in jail and somebody will go back there and research the law and find something in the 1800s to hold that person on.
It's interesting, man. We have a long way to go. We're not there yet in terms of equity in terms of law. And in fact, right now, I think it's safe to say there's a completely dual system of justice for people of color and other folks, right? Yeah. So a lot of times you could say the law is designed to oppress some folks and to protect other folks, because representation matters. If you have more money, you get better representation. There's a lot of people in prison right now because they didn't have good representation.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of people in prison right now because the system that far too often overlooks certain people, far too often convicts other people. Just look at the stats. And it's not new. I mean, it was Richard Pryor used to say, I went downtown to find justice and found just us. Okay. Yeah. This isn't new information, right? But I think people have to understand something on why it is the way it is. And nobody wants to have these discussions, but I talk about it all the time in my mentorship group with Kappa League. You got to understand something. They had to move the slavery system somewhere. So they moved it to prison.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the officers that are out here, not all of them, but a lot of them, play the same role as the overseers used to play on the plantation. Officer, overseer. And if you get out of line, they put you back in chains, take you back to the plantation. And if you get too far out of line, they may kill you right there. And I'll be doggone if that's not what's happening in our streets right now. Tyree Nichols got killed by some overseers. They were trying to take that man back to the plantation. And he got out of line, so they killed him. And now it's coming out that they maybe even had more of a motive. That one of them, I guess, one of their girlfriends he was dating, or whatever the case may be.
One of the officer's ex-girlfriends, which brings on to mental health. Get over it. She don't want you anymore.
Social skills, and then if social skills and problem solving skills, abuse of authority, is so many things that were wrong with that picture. But it just talks about a system that can be so broken that some folks are forgetting where they come from, or in fact reenacting where they came from. You saw the movies. You know that you saw that there was what was it, Django? Which one was it? Where they had the black overseer that was riding, and he was more vicious than some of the white folks. This isn't a new narrative. It's a broken system, a system that pretends to be equitable when it's not. And but the problem now is too many of us can read degrees and see how the lies have been unfolding, and we're starting to hold people to it. We're holding people to what needs to change.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we're causing certain folks that have been entitled and privileged to lose a little bit of that room that they used to have. See, you can't say everything that you used to say with no penalty. You can't do everything you used to do without any penalty. Being black in this country, African American in this country, is a challenge to survive every day. Biden laid it out. And he said, he was speaking to Caucasian America when he said, can you imagine having the talk that all of us have to have with all of our kids when they interact with the police? That's what we're talking about. We should have to have the talk in 2023. And we need to move to that. Right? If you do something illegal as an officer, you're going to jail like a criminal that you are.
Yeah.
And it's going to benefit law enforcement to be more like officers than overseers. We're going to have to put the overseers in the plantation themselves and let the rest of us go free. Let our kids be free, right? And, we talk about it all the time. If we know what to do, when the police pull us over, you better go to 11 and 2.
Yeah.
Have the lights on and all that. Some of us know all that. And the fact that we have to know that and do that in this day and age means that we're not free as we say we are, but that's the stuff that we have to move towards. And then we can talk about the economic disparities. We can talk about the educational disparities. We can talk about all these other things that are going to require the same emphasis that we have to free people in Ukraine. We're going to do that same thing here. Don't stop talking about improving mental health. Put some more money into it.
Yes.
If you want to bridge the gap between mental health and law enforcement, then do it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All you got to do is do it. Put some of that legislation forward. I know some police chiefs that are working with and bringing mental health practitioners onto the force, working with the community and helping to train officers. They're doing that on their own. But shouldn't that be mandated at a state level?
Yeah, I think we talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
That should be mandated. We have a problem with law enforcement. We ask officers to do too much at times. We have people that are trained. What's up? Why are we paying for that? Why are we paying for people? It's easy to, I'm gonna tell you, it's real easy. I could train officers every day on what to look for in homicidal, suicidal ideation in advance. Heck, half the time, the documentation's already there. Regularly go by schools and see what the school counselors have had to take note of. If a child has suicide or homicidation, that shouldn't be privileged information to law enforcement. That should be regular reported information. Just so you know who's on the radar. We know what happens. Salvador and Uvalde, the young man up in Michigan that, you know, up in the Detroit area, the suburb of Detroit, let me make sure I say that, they did the shooting in the suburb of Detroit, not in Detroit, but then the parents tried to hide in Detroit. All had warnings, writings. They were supposed to go see a mental health, you know, should have seen a mental health practitioner. There was documentation there. You know, give law enforcement the tools. And, you know, when the mental health practitioners say something, act on it. If we deem somebody mentally ill, act on it. Act on it in school before they get into the community, before they get, you know, out here 18 and can go buy ARs and automatic weapons.
Yeah.
Get to it when they exhibit those signs. Make sure they get the mental health access. There's no reason whatsoever. There are the hotspot idea. Let's move that a little forward. Make sure everybody has access to hotspots, and then think about all the mental health things that are online. At least if you're in an area like Uvalde where they didn't have very little or any mental health facilities, you can bring mental health in electronically. At least give them access to be proactive. And then we got to make sure we have mental health facilities in every area that has schools. You need to have some mental health facilities so somebody can be evaluated and can be held until they're stable. I mean, we're the richest country in the world, right? Why isn't that the case? We can, if we're rich enough to send all that money to Ukraine for democracy, why don't we make sure we got it tightened up here?
Take care of home first.
That's what I was taught. That's what I was taught. You take care of home first.
Mm-hmm.
And some men, I'm going to put this out here, some men, that's the only home you're supposed to be taking care of. That's why your house is kind of jacked up now, because you ain't taking care of your house. You taking care of your side piece's house. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you said it. Go ahead, preach on.
We got too many side piece houses we taking care of. We need to take care of our house. Your house falling apart, but your side piece got a nice crib.
Yeah. Yeah. Something
I'm done. I'm gonna get off that. That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
We're talking about relationships. We might step on some feet. We either gonna gain a lot of listeners or we're gonna lose a few. But
that's all right.
We're gonna tell the truth about this relationship thing and why some women and some men are in relationships that don't make sense. They just seem to keep going backwards, right?
Yeah.
And we in that same thing politically. We got some folks that we dealing with. We know don't make sense. Ted Cruz, look at him. I'm gonna beat up Ted Cruz today. Why is he still in office? Why? Who is voting for the Ted Cruzes of the world right now? Blatantly showing you that they're not in the best interest of you or the country. In a time of crisis, you know, when they say you tell who a man is from a time of crisis, this dude took off to Mexico.
Let's talk. Let's go a little further than that. Let's talk about Ted Cruz when Trump called his wife ugly, and he got mad at Trump. Nobody talked to Heidi like that. And what did he end up doing? Kissing his butt.
Power, man. I don't know, man. I watch some shows, Game of Thrones, all that. Yeah, it ain't got nothing on it. Those shows will have nothing on our American politics right now. I'm waiting for Khaleesi to show up and some dragons to start flying around any day. I don't know when I watch these mugs, man, what's her name? Marjorie, whatever. I was like, woman, if you don't sit down,
Yeah.
yelling liar to the president of the United States. That's why I know I couldn't be president. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do that job because that teleprompter would have stopped that moment. I said, woman, lady,
Sit your butt down.
don't sit your narrow behind down. I don't even know how you still in here. Man, where the Secret
Yep.
Service at? What?
Yep. Exactly.
Open your mouth again up in this mug. Call
Yeah.
me a liar calling somebody else a liar.
Liar. What's the old saying? Isn't that the pot calling the kettle black?
I would have had to say it. I'd have said, boy, aren't you the pot? Liar. I don't know how you can even go outside after saying that word.
I don't know. But
It's amazing stuff, man.
Yeah. Well, we're coming down to our time. We always go over, but that's all right. We could do that.
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. But Joseph, we appreciate your forethoughts on what's going on. I appreciate some of the questions that came in today. And just keep it coming. And back here next week at 7:30. This is what I did. Joseph thought we were going to be on at 7 because the sheet I sent him says 7 o'clock. I said, ooh, I need to correct that. And I did correct it. It had 7:30 on there.
Listen. All the stuff I got going on, man. My calendar, I have to follow that pretty close. And at about 6 o'clock, I don't know, I think 5:30, 6 o'clock, my alarm, started going off. And I looked, I said, wait a minute now. This is an extra 10 minutes of sleep now. If I this is a serious decision, I'm working.
Yeah.
We got a lot of projects we're working on and a lot of things we're doing. So anytime I get a couple more minutes of rest before I have to, get on all this stuff, man, I take it. But I'm so glad, Ron, for the station, man. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing in the community. I love what potential that this place has and the message. One of the things I think is so special about this show, people don't see two African-American men that are brothers in terms of our conversation, our vision, just talking like this.
Yeah.
Right now, my wife, always tells me she's making me, she's like my coach, and it's about 7:30. Come on, it's time to get this show, and I'm getting there. I got I got everything set up. But she understands kind of the things and the topics we're talking about. Other people need to hear that we have some of these same concerns, we have the same focus, and we are out doing things in the community, not just talking about it. See, it's one thing to talk about it, but I know the work that you do in the community and trying to help folks of color and others going to Uvalde, right? I'll be real. You got to Uvalde before I did, and making a difference. And they were still talking about the work that you did for that Christmas in the summer.
Yeah.
They were still talking about that when we got there. See, we need to take action. And that's my word for the day. Take action. Let these politicians know you're sick of them. You're sick of the rhetoric. You're sick of the lies. You're sick of all this stuff. And you're going to do everything in your power to get their butt out of office.
Amen to that.
Everything. Get these judges, because look, we got to protect. We're going to have to step it up here, right? Because we cannot be behind in education. We cannot be behind in the things that we're behind in. Listen to the president's agenda. He hit a lot of key points. It's one of the best State of the Nation speeches that I've heard in a lot of years, better than any of them that Trump ever said.
Yeah.
It's relevant. It's based on actual facts, not alternative facts. Spot check them. See, now we get to the point where people are pushing back from actual facts and reality. Yes, all politics has some rhetoric. Yes, all politics has a slant. But which one is more based in reality? And that's what we got to go with. I can't help anybody as a therapist if I have them building from an irrational and delusional thought process.
Yeah.
We need to do the same thing in politics. We need to do the same thing in policy. We need to do the same thing in terms of understanding why the border is only part of the issue. Getting to why they're coming across the border needs to be dealt with too, and how they come across. But anyway, I know we got to go. We're past time.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Hey, the action speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. So let's start acting. So
Amen.
then they can hear what we're saying a little bit louder, right?
Yeah.
So,
all right. We appreciate it coming on board. I'm just looking at the messages board right here. People are still liking everything that's going on, and I appreciate it. So let me see. Let me go back to it again and see who. I'm just flicking things all over the place. Y'all don't need to see that right there. All right, there we go. All right, we had of course, Crystal is on, Sandy, Coco.
Hey everybody.
Was on Cheryl. I mean, actually Coco had people from her office chimed in.
All right now.
So that's good. So maybe they got something. That's where that one question came from. So we appreciate that. So
hey, I want people to start sending their questions in about relationships, dating, whatever, marriage, all that stuff. And we're gonna start addressing all that stuff. I got some books that people should read. If you're thinking about getting married, there's a little pre-marriage toolkit we're going to talk about and go into. We start getting a relationship. So start getting those questions ready. You got opportunity to talk to some married folks who've been married for 10, 15, 20 years plus, so we're going to drop some secrets, drop some things that I when I do therapy, the couples about to get married, people that are trying to stay married, all that. We're going to get into all that.
Okay. Oh, Brad also said, hey, Joseph.
Hey, what's going on, man?
So, all right, man. We're going to keep on things going. We appreciate you showing up and doing your thing. You just don't know it's a blessing.
Hey, man, it's a blessing to be able to do it. It's a blessing to be able to do here. And thank you for allowing me to be myself. When you throw that on.
All right. All right, brother. You take care. We'll talk to you later. All right.